Remember that record that you bought me like 2 years ago? Well, I just remembered that it's sitting in the closet. So I called you up just to tell you I've been meaning to listen to that. I've been meaning to listen to that. Why don't you come over and talk about it? Ooh, why don't you come over and talk about it?
Yeah, for sure. But hey, everybody, welcome to I've Been Meaning to Listen to That, the podcast where we go through albums we've been meaning to listen to and use it as a conduit to learn about each other and our guests. I'm Andrew Ambrose Lee. It's just me this week, here with a very special guest, one of like a internet bestie in a way, like a real like lovely writer friend, co-host of the show, like guest co-host on the show a few times. Please welcome back for her 5th appearance on our 5th year of the podcast, Alicia Parikh.
Thank you, Andrew. If this were SNL, I'd have a fancy jacket as a 5-time repeat now. So
yeah, Steve, like we also like Steve Martin was unavailable, Paul Rudd, Tina Fey, and all those folks were unavailable for this. Because we rescheduled the episode is the thing. Like we had them booked, and then we had to reschedule the episode. So I
know that Martin Short is very busy, so I'm like, no, that makes sense. No fun special guest appearances, but we're really fun, so it doesn't matter.
We're really fun. This will be kind of a loosey-goosier episode, a little more free-flowing than usual. But hi, Alicia. Welcome to the pod again. Let's talk about Mitski. Let's talk about Mitski Miyawaki. Mitski Leaks on her Instagram and Twitter or X account. What is your relationship to Mitski? What do you have any preconceived notions on her music?
You know what's funny? Until you said that we were going to do this album, I never listened to this full album, Be the Cowboy, which is kind of insane because when this album came out, I listened to Nobody on repeat and it made my rap like for years. I love that song. I do like this album a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't listen to the full thing. But yeah, I have a very strong connection to Nobody, and those lyrics are tattooed on my eyelids.
Because you're so like well-adjusted and happy, right? Like,
yes, I'm very well-adjusted, just like Mitski, okay? Just like Mitski. And I think it's very cool that she's just this Asian woman making this really cool music. And I really connected with that. And yeah, her lyrics are devastating, but the music makes it sound like they're having a good time.
Yeah, like beyond what you just said, like what was it about that song in particular that made it so impactful and like had this long lasting impact on your music listening?
I mean, immediately when it came out, it was just like put on all of my Spotify playlists. They're like, you're gonna love this, you're a lonely bitch. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And it on this album typically, we'll get into this later, but like a lot of them have like a period where it's just like music and it's leading you into the song. Nobody, she's off the bat is singing you lyrics and she's like, my God, I'm so lonely. And I'm like, yeah, yes. But yeah, I hadn't really heard much of the rest of the album until this week. And what a shame. A lot of her songs would pop up on a lot of my indie playlists. And this does make me think of a pre-pandemic time because I did listen to the few songs on this album a lot when it came out. I did listen to a lot of Two Slow Dancers and Washing Machine Heart, obviously. So I'm glad that this allowed me the opportunity to fully appreciate this album.
I remember in 2023, it was mostly just knowing those, like, that album, and like I listened to this album when it came out and I liked it, but beyond the big hits that you mentioned of like Washing Machine Heart, Nobody, maybe the first song, like it didn't resonate with me as much initially, and then Laurel Hell came out and I remember liking a few songs. It didn't resonate as much, and then like 2023 for some reason it became like a huge deal. It became like Mitski eventually became like a top 5 musician. I think because I was experiencing like like this was around the time where like Kanye was like declining like rapidly
Oh my
as a
God,
human
you're
being.
right.
Yeah,
You're
and like
right.
I needed like so there's a vacuum. Like he was my favorite artist,
Yeah.
and there was a vacuum,
Yes.
and then Mitski kind of held it together for a while. Like it was like because her discography is so varied, and I was feeling this intensely around
Yes.
life, and there's like you could analyze all these albums in the way you could analyze his albums, and she became like a top 10 artist in like the last like 2 years.
Yeah.
And so like revisiting Be the Cowboy is a really interesting experience, because this is like always my least favorite of her records. But
Very interesting.
this was the breakout one. This is like this
Yeah.
one and Puberty 2 were the breakout.
Yeah.
Like this is like, I think Puberty 2 was like bubbling, and then this album like breaking into the mainstream of just like breaking into like some, at least like the fever pitch that it is that around that time. So yeah, let's talk about this album. Like let's talk about
Yeah.
themes of Be the Cowboy. Like what did you take from this? Like what were some thematic territory you took from this album?
I mean, at first, I feel like I really did have to focus on the name of the album, Be the Cowboy, because I had never really consciously thought about it when I was listening to Nobody on repeat. I'm like, yeah, Be the Cowboy. I think that's really powerful for her to say, especially as an Asian woman. Like, I feel like there's really big sort of not implications, but like connotations with being a cowboy, very American, very like powerful and very confident. And I feel like she spent a lot of this album trying to like emulate that. And it's great re-listening to this album now versus when it came out. Like I agree with you. It's a different vibe. And I did not appreciate it. But that really came through. I feel like it was her just like constantly trying to manifest being a cowboy in her own life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of artists around this time like really stuck with like, oh, maybe we should emulate more. We should reclaim like the cowboy identity. Like Taylor Swift have a song about like a cowboy at this time, like around it. And like Orville Peck was kind of around this time. Like I feel like we're all like reclaiming it. And I think it was so important for her to talk about her loneliness throughout this entire album. That really resonated with me as well. She can be, you know, kind of going from place to place, but she's still like her own lone rider. And like that hits hard. That hits hard, especially in like 2018, 2019. I mean, that was a very precarious time. More precarious now that we look back on it.
Yeah, like how so? Yeah. Like how? I would love to hear you expound on that more.
I feel like we were really at like this apex of culture, and then we all went into a global pandemic. So like I don't know, 2018, 2019 feel very precarious to me now that I look back on it. Like there was all this untold potential. Everyone was really out there, you know, and like we all just had to stop. We all just had to stop. And I feel like this like kind of reflects that as well. Like, I don't know, she's really tapped into this, like, I'm going to be very introspective, but also keep being out there and like keep going at it. And you can definitely tell that throughout this album. Like that's an undercurrent that's just like throughout. And yeah, I don't know, 2018, 2019 were a crazy time.
Yeah. I remember I was like, I must have been like, I was starting this show. So I was like, really, there's like an optimism to, and then we'll eventually like strike it big. And then, and like, I was still like I was in my early to mid 20s, and there was like still like there was still some like unmolded potential that like now I'm like, oh, did I live up to that? Did I like live up to that in a way? Yeah. So yeah. Oh. The other thing I wrote down was like, there's like, it's a lot about her imbalanced and dysfunctional relationship to her art, stemming from trauma and loneliness. It's also her imbalanced and dysfunctional relationship to intimacy stemming from trauma and loneliness, which feeds into her imbalanced and dysfunctional relationship to her arts. So like it's not that like being an artist is bad, or it's not like it's just like she's like very unbalanced in this time. Like she's very like there's like she describes it like as a storm, a war inside of her at all times. And my observation of like her relationship to intimacy is she's expressing like, my God, I'm so lonely. I'm so by myself. I won't come into the water unless you say it's safe. But when I'm in the relationship, I'll eventually let the relationship die because of my own difficulties with intimacy. And then I'll get old and I'll be slow dancing with someone I should have loved when I was younger, but now it's too late. So there's like it feels like a socially like real horror movie. It feels like not in a horror movie and like, oh, something supernatural or like a demon or like a monster shows up. More just like this could happen to, like the scariest like horror movies are like the movies where it's like this could happen to you. Like the Strangers, that movie where like the home invasion and like the home invaders do it for no reason. Like there's like a real like, oh shit, that could happen. Or like Halloween of just like, oh shit, some guy in a mask could like stab people in a suburb. Like that's really scary. You know? So I think there's that to what do you think of that?
No, I absolutely agree. Especially when she talks so much about like regret and loss, even if it's in like a very theoretical sense in her songs. Like she's like, I kissed him and I should have kissed him differently. And I was like, yeah, like she just regrets not giving her all, but she also knows that there's some part of her that like won't. And that kills me. Like in, oh my gosh, even just Lonesome Love, like, oh my gosh, it's such a lonely album, but she is at the same time like inviting you to be lonely with her, you know? Like there's this real sense of not crying out for help, if that, you know what I mean? Like she's just like, somebody else must be feeling this way. And like, I'm gonna talk about it in this entire album. And I love that.
Yeah, I do see this as like an essential text about loneliness for people our age, people maybe like Gen Z too, I imagine, and like minorities and like queer people in particular. I feel like there must be something in the water, in the sauce that like really resonates with like people like us in a way. I wrote down like a lack of self-worth, making it very hard for her to set boundaries, leading to like chaotic, painful relationships. Again, both with art, both with other people. I wrote down like Pearl, and like there's a lot of parallels to the movie like Pearl. And then like it's about, that movie's a lot about how if you want to be famous, there's probably there might be something like dysregulated, or you might be dealing with some trauma that you might not be recognizing in a way. Like, why do you want to be loved by everyone? Why do you want everyone to know who you are and like you as a symbol? Like, you know, like there must be like something, like you must have gone through something really difficult, or you might have like a really unhealthy relationship to, or you might not even understand what love is or what it's supposed to be. You may have never experienced it on some level, you know?
Yeah.
She also said she was inspired by the movie The Piano Teacher. Have you seen that one?
I looked into it a little bit because I saw that was one of her inspirations. I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. I've never seen it though. So yeah.
Like here, I'll just like read her quote about it. Like it's probably easier. She's very much inspired by the heroine in The Piano Teacher. Something about that character made something click for me. The album sounds nothing like the movie. It was just a first spark. I watched that movie and just thought there was something about that character where she was what you would call frigid, doesn't express much, repressed, I guess you would say. But she actually has these crazy whirling desires inside of her that when the young man actually gets to know her, he realizes it's above her pay grade, and he can't fucking handle it. Something about the ending where she stabs herself. It's like she can't do anything about the desire she feels, so she hurts herself. It's something about that instinct that I felt. Thinking through that and analyzing the character is what inspired this album. Yeah, any other themes, I guess.
I mean, I feel like we covered the big ones. I'm like looking at the track list because I'm like, all these things are jumping out at me. Even when you look at when she sings like me and my husband, and I'm like, oh, that made me really sad. Made me really sad listening to that song. I don't know. I feel like that was also one of my lesser favorites on the album. Not because it's
Wow.
not good, but it like I don't know, it almost seems like she's like trying to manifest something in like this form of desperation that really made me sad.
Yeah, yeah. It's the
And
end
I
of
get it.
yeah, but it's the end of Pearl, where like at the end of the Pearl, it's like she like tries, she auditions for the thing and she doesn't get it. And now she's stuck on this farm and she's like, I can't deal with being alone. It's too painful. So I'm going to I basically give up and like stay with my husband who like on this farm that I hate and like
Yes.
grow old and bitter and miserable because I'm so scared and being alone is so painful. Like that's the end of that movie. And like yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's
Yeah.
such a good parallel for you to bring up. You mentioned that earlier and I was like, "Oh, did you look at the song of Pearl?" And you're like, "Yes." You're right.
It legit started from
You're
there. I'm
right.
like, there's something there. Like this album's about like the weirdness of fame, the weirdness of being an artist, and like frustrated and like all that such. Um, yeah. Let's. I think we can talk about this a little deeper on some highlight songs. Right after this break. Click. That's a little like the beginning of that one song. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
Like it's the beginning of Me and My Husband. It starts with like, hey, we're back here to talk about Be the Cowboy by Mitski. Let's start with a highlight song. What's a highlight song for you?
Oh man. Is it cheating if I still say nobody? I mean,
No,
now that I've listened to the
buddy.
whole album, I know it's a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I feel like highlight would be nobody. A new highlight for me, Why Didn't You Stop Me, the second track of the song.
Wow.
It's like same like upbeat, but like I don't know, a little bit rougher than nobody. And I'm like, yeah, that was a really fun song that I did not appreciate when this first came out. And oh man, I don't know. It's just an overall really good album. I think I also like Geyser more now.
Okay.
Like that's a good start to the album. I really like that it kind of sets the tone, but we also go through a lot of different sounds throughout this album. Like it's not just like one monotone story. There's a lot going on here. But my number one will still be Nobody. I mean, those lyrics, I think about the song so often.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
What about Nobody that you enjoy?
I mean, I feel like all the time I think about that lyric where she's like, I've been big and small and big and small, and still nobody wants me. I think about that lyric constantly because at that point she's telling you it's something intrinsic in her.
Yeah.
Like it's not really her, but she's the problem. And like that resonates so hard.
Yeah. Like I've like I too have been big and small and big and small. Like I was a skinny kid and then I was like and then like in college I like gained a lot of weight and then like over like the last like 5 years I like worked a lot very hard to be healthy and like in 2023 I was like really like I was like way leaner and like more fit and stuff. And then I still was like having issues with my self-esteem, having issues with my like developing intimacy with potential partners and such. And I think what you're talking about with the intrinsic thing, it's not that like I'm not worthy of it or Mitski isn't worthy or she isn't beautiful or I'm not like awesome to like hang around. It's more just like this self-worth issue. And sometimes though, like the external world kind of telling you in a way like doesn't help either though. It's like kind of like a very negative feedback loop going on with a line like that.
Yes, exactly. And like, yeah, speaking to that, I mean, it's something that she realized like it's a little bit broken inside of her. And like now she just kind of has to deal with those repercussions because she doesn't have anyone as that support.
Yeah. Yeah. And ironically, though, that's the thing that you have to do. You know, the thing you have to do when you're in that zone is you can't just go to someone to like give you one good movie kiss to like fix it for you. You have to like learn how to like yourself when you're by yourself and know who you are when no one's watching, or when you're not performing, or when you're not like trying to prove something to someone to get that.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is it's rough.
It's rough. Yeah, especially that line where she's just like, I don't want your pity. I just need someone to kiss. And I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah, Mitski.
Yeah, because it's like
she has this like sense of self-awareness.
Yeah, it's less meaningful if like I tell you like, hey, just like kiss me, and then like if because you feel bad for me, like it has to like be, there has to be like an organic quality to this sort of love and this sort of thing. Yeah, this is the core of the album for sure. Like this is like the thesis of the album. Like it like she uses a lot of flowery poetic language, but just to the essence of it, like the song starts with my God, I'm so lonely, and then nobody like it's staccato and fluid at the same time, the way she like croons the chorus. It's so great.
Yeah, it's a little tongue-in-cheek at the same time. Like it's very fun and also so relatable in such a very specific way.
So like the thing I wrote down was like, so there's 62 million views on YouTube alone on the video itself. So maybe not even the rest, like the whatever, however many remixes, however many like just the audio or whatever. And there's like 1.1 million likes on it. So she writes and sings a song about having nobody, but has that many people enjoy and relate to that song. And then she goes on stage and she sings it in a room full of people who feel the same way, in a way. And there's real beauty in that, in terms of like, she's taking this really awful feeling and turning into something fun, turning into something disco, and then like transmuting it in a way where like people can relate, so she doesn't feel as alone. But also her particular pain of being Mitski, no one, even though like maybe the feeling is similar, like no one can relate to that specifically. And like and everyone in the audience thinks of Mitski as a god. They don't really think of her as like a real person either. So like there's also a inverse effect happening too, like that might make her feel more lonely.
Exactly. Like it's the parasocial relationship of it all, with like us fans interacting with these artists that we love so much, and like I don't know, a little bit of that humanity gets lost in translation almost, when she is clearly telling you this person that she is, like holistically.
Anything else you want to say about Nobody though?
I mean, it still makes it on my Spotify Wrapped. It's a banger. Like I think it's on my workout playlist. I don't know. I listen to it all the time.
Workout playlist.
I'm like, yes. This makes me jazzed. No, I think it still continues to be relevant. And I think the themes of the song even carry on into her next album. And like,
for sure,
think it's always relevant, even when you are kind of in a healthier spot. I don't know. It resonates. And it's a very different sounding track than the rest of the album. Like it's very different. It's again, like you said, like it's very disco. It's very like fun, but like gutting lyrics.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I like the line, Venus, planet of love, was destroyed by global warming. First of all, that's so creative and funny. Like, you never really think of that.
Too much. Like that's good. That's so good. It like really taps into the sense of yearning that she has throughout this whole album. And it's just like, did they want too much? Did you want too much? And that's powerful.
I also love it as like a symbol of femininity, like Venus being like a god, like a feminine god, and then being destroyed by like masculine desire, like the global warming caused by like implied men. like
Yeah.
there's like a so there's that. Yeah, let's go through another highlight of yours. You
Yeah.
said Geyser. You also said
Yeah.
Why
Well,
Didn't You
wait,
Stop Me?
let's hop over to some of your highlights. I mean, now that you've listened to this album again, like at this point in your life, like what was kind of what were the standouts?
Okay, so I really like I think A Pearl is the other thesis of the album, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, it like you know that meme of like that one like Japanese soldier, like I think his name is like Hiro Onoda, where like the meme is like this man refused to believe World War II was over for 29 years, and he hid in the
Yes.
jungle
Yes.
until his like former commander like ordered him to stop.
Yes.
That's such a funny idea, but it's like also like really like what must have been
Yeah.
going on in that person's life that he like just refused to believe or anything, you know? Like, but like it's I think hypervigilance after like childhood trauma, even though the
Hmm.
immediate threat is removed, like you're still
Hmm.
not like you're in your future relationships, you still like have that attitude, and you may find yourself reliving that pain, or either reliving it just like unconsciously, like I accidentally chose someone like my dad. Whoops, you know, like
Yeah.
either that or you meet someone like that and you try to change the outcome. You try to like,
Hmm.
man, I don't like if I could get this guy to love me, then that will give my life meaning. That will like make what happened to me okay on some level. And while she's going through this internal battle, she's in a relationship and
Hmm.
eventually just like distancing yourself from this person who is offering her more unconditional support, more like
Hmm.
earnest love, but she's like she's not accepting of it because she calls it a pearl, which I think also like translates to art of like I can make this. You're telling me that I went through this, I made nobody, like you know, I made this
Yeah.
pearl out of
Yes.
having a breakdown. Like I don't want to lose that on some level, even though
Hmm.
I am so miserable in this current existence as well.
Yes. Yes. And I definitely agree with that. Sorry, that made me think of Kanye, where he's like coming up with all this artistry and
Yeah,
all this like chaos.
truly, like that's like I think um I I think Justin Hunt had this analysis of his work where like his whole artistry is like transferring pain into arts, like
Yes.
getting into a car crash, his mom dying, divorce, and it just like became too like that's like the horror, like the real life horror movie of like you're watching this person you were rooting for like fall, and like
Hmm.
Mitski is like at an earlier stage of this where like I
Yeah.
we see her at the end of The Land Is Inhospitable and So Are We at a more balanced place, and you're like she writes a song called My Love Mine All Mine where she has a better definition of love and all that such. So yeah, let's talk about another highlight. What about you? What's the one you want to talk about?
Oh man. I mean, I feel like another highlight. I mean, I don't think I really appreciated Washing Machine Heart as much. I think that's actually one of the more popular songs on this
Yeah, yeah.
album. But yeah, I feel like I didn't appreciate it really until now. Like she really is not having the sense of vulnerability that she thinks she needs to for these relationships, but she will continue like taking
Yeah.
as she would in a form of like service to her partner, thinking that this is what they would want. And like, I don't know, I felt like that really resonated with me this time.
Hmm.
She's like, he threw his old sneakers in my washing machine. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like it's like going back to the piano teacher. I didn't actually watch the movie. I just like watched a bunch of essays and like read about it.
Good.
'Cause I feel like I couldn't take watching a movie about sexual like assault and like self-harm and all that right now. But
Yeah.
apparently what happens in the movie and the book is she starts an affair with one of her students, and then she
Hmm.
writes like this letter to her student about like beat me up, assault me, leave me for dead. Like these are my like stipulations for like how you should treat me, like what's allowed. And then I think the implicit like the subtext is like, one, she feels so like worthless that she kind of wants to die. Two, like but also like two, she kind of wants this person to realize, hey, this is wrong. I don't want to do this to you. You know, like this is kind of messed up. Like, even though you're telling me this, like, this is not, I don't feel good about this. I want to like express love, but she doesn't, but she also like doesn't feel worthy of it. And all like, it's a really like, I don't think she, um, can articulate that. It's like the thing in like the Nobody song where she's like, I don't want your pity. I just need someone to like. So if I tell you like I want to be loved, that's like harder to say than like you making the choice to love me, you know?
Yes. Yeah, because she does want that sense of choice. And like that's very relevant in like all of her songs. She always wants that sense of choice. But there is that sense that she's like holding parts of herself back with this like lack of vulnerability. Because at this point, she's like, well, I'm kind of sabotaging my relationships. But if I let it all out and I put it all on the table and they still don't choose me, that's different than sort of passively letting these relationships die. Yeah. Like there's something there. And it's like, ooh, I'm like, oh, how relatable.
It's also just so catchy. It's so catchy. It's like so it's so catchy. The like whatever that is. It's so catchy. The
very millennial. I feel like
yeah, that's sorry, it's so good. So it was very sorry. What were you guys saying?
Very millennial, you know, like we're all kind of, I feel like we all very much struggle with intimacy in a very millennial sense.
Hey, speak for yourself.
If I give if I give everything and they still don't love me, big or small, like that's, you know, that's something that's hard for a person to conceptually deal with. And I get it.
Yeah, I think we can quickly talk about Why Didn't You Stop Me? Like, I think this really shows her her gifts as a lyricist. In that she only has like two real observations in it. Like kind of like she's not a story, like she doesn't storytell in this song the way she does in Lonesome Love. Where one of the big center points of this song is this song about the line about, I look for a picture of you to keep in my pocket, but I can't seem to find which one. I can't seem to find one where you look how I remember. So like that's the one of the centerpieces of the verse. And then the music sets the tone and the atmosphere and a world you could create in. And then your brain fills in the rest, which is why I think a lot of people relate to her. You know, she's not actually like telling you her specific life in the way like some artists do. She's just like letting you fill in the parasocially, like fill in the gaps. And then which is like like unfortunately why she has a lot of like mentally unwell fans, like or fans who just like are struggling with these difficult things and like need like, you know, a song like this.
No, it's nice because a lot of this album also, I feel like she's letting her fans project whatever they need to for the purpose of listening to this album and getting what they need to out of it. And I feel like honestly, Why Didn't You Stop Me? I feel like it goes really hand in hand with Remember My Name. That's like a couple of songs later. Like they go hand in hand, and I think they should be combined. Like it's so, I don't know. I feel like the sentiments are exactly the same. Like she's like, I gave too much of my heart tonight. Can you come to where I'm staying? I'm like, yeah, that's like, and to like give me extra love. That's gutting. So like not only is she saying why didn't you stop me, but she also wants people to remember her in such a profound way.
It goes back to Washing Machine Heart of just like, I'm telling you, you can do this to me, you could treat me lesser than I deserve, like implicitly deserve, but also why didn't you stop me? Like why didn't you? But the truth is like on some level, like uh, on some level, the person needs to like realize maybe I'm going too far, but she also needs to advocate. She also feels so like, I think she's, or at least the character in this album is struggling with self-worth and preserve and like kind of enforcing boundaries and enforcing, and her partners do this, her relationship to art does this, and also her fans, her like fans like constantly like impede on her boundaries. Like she performed a show and she was like, hey, like I prefer you not film the whole time. I prefer you not like or use flash photography in the middle of the show. It's distracting. And then like she like everyone just ignored it. Everyone just like trampled over her because they wanted something from her. And then like nowadays she's way better at like setting the boundary or just like letting things happen, but like still having like distance between the audience and the performer in a way.
Yeah. No. That's true. I think she's gotten a lot better with it now. But in this album, like she is clearly expressing that she is unable to really advocate for herself in the way that she needs to be advocated for. And I don't want to say that throughout the album there's this undercurrent of desperation, because it's not quite the connotation I want to do, but like there's something desperate and a little bit feral in all of the songs in this album. But without it seeming desperate. Like it's more like she just needs to be heard. You need to remember her name. Like she would love for you to remember her name, but she doesn't really think she's worthy of having someone remember her name.
Yeah. Have you seen like Twist? I guess you don't even have to see the movie, but have you seen Twisters?
I haven't seen the new one. No, which is crazy because I love the original Twisters.
I love the new movie. I technically didn't need to like set it up that way because like just tornadoes work the way they work but the thing that's surprising about tornadoes is they don't last very long. You know, they don't like they just kind of like come and go in like a few minutes, but they can cause so much like damage in such a short amount of time. And I think like how short the songs are, they're almost every song is like a storm she has to endure. Like like a tornado's going on and she's like at the bottom of a pool, like holding on to like the bottom of it, you know?
And then you can kind of see that culminating and then the end of the storm and the repercussions with two slow dancers. Like she's like, okay. I'm dealing with the aftermath and now I have to deal with the aftermath. It's chaotic. It's messy. Now she's got to pick it all up.
Let's see. What's another highlight for you that you want to talk about?
I mean, I feel like, oh man. I mean, I can't steal a pearl because it was very good. And I think you're right. It kind of lends into the thesis of the entire album, but I don't know. Pink in the Night was really nice. I feel like I didn't appreciate that as much at first either. And now it's really like grown on me. I'm like, yeah, it's good. Like it's a little bit softer than I think the songs that kind of lead up to it. And even the songs after that, like it's just a little softer. And it's almost like she's giving us a little more vulnerability, almost like more than she's comfortable with. And I'm like, yeah, it's almost like growth within the album.
Yeah. It's a little break from the storms, like just like, the storms of some of the song, and it's like but I also feel like that like kind of makes some of the songs more painful too, like the fact that she got to experience a Pink in the Night experience. Like I think a lot of us like who struggle with loneliness or any difficult time or whatever have moments, whether with friends or whether with like maybe as someone we're seeing, this moment of like everything's right, everything's good, everything like I endured so much hardship and now I'm observing my partner's back and I'm in love, you know? And then when it's gone, it's like, oh, I'm back here. Whoa, this sucks.
Yes. It's almost like the eye of the storm of her album. I almost want to say like there's a sense of lull here, but then you're back at it where she's like, I know I've kissed you, but I didn't do it right.
Yeah.
And then you're back into it again. You're like, oh.
Yeah. There's really like also, even in that song, there's a sense of loss with that line, but also I could stare at your back all day. Like maybe she's like, maybe this partner isn't actually that good at all, and this partner has their back to her, and she's just like making do with this.
Yeah.
But
Because I
also,
always got,
but
I always
also,
got
like,
it in the
I've
sense
read
for
the
like,
positive reading, like most of the times I've listened to it, I've always like that is like that is very intimate. Like I've had that.
it
That's
is.
really sweet. Um,
Yeah, that was
let's
a nice
see.
little lull.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. What are some of your other like best moments in this album?
Uh,
It's just such a rich album. It's hard to kind of
yeah, for
pinpoint.
sure. I want to shout out Lonesome Love.
Uh,
It's such great storytelling, like the idea of like in the first 8 bars, she kind of like sets up a story and gets you to care for the
mhm.
protagonist. And then, we hear her process of like spend an hour on my makeup to prove something, walk up in my high heels all high and mighty. That's super funny and adorable. And then
Yes.
like she fails and like we feel like in the economy of the lyricism, like like it's so good. And then the line about like no one fucks me like me. Like there's like
Mhm.
I think a few meanings to that. Like no one sabotages my life like myself. And then like
Yes.
the sexual implication of that lyric. And then also like making art is kind of masturbatory on some level. Like there's like a public like pleasure and self-pity and self-love all kind of rolled into one when you're making art a little bit.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah.
No, I really enjoyed Lonesome Love. And I feel like it really goes hand in hand with me and my husband, especially that verse where she talks about, I'm the idiot with the painted face in the corner
Yeah.
taking up space. And it's because of this very like performative angle
Mhm.
that she's trying to escape this sense inside of her. And it's just, yeah, it's a really good undercurrent throughout the entire album.
Yeah.
That's a really
I
good good highlight.
yeah, me and my husband, I love that song. It's again, not just like obviously the messages of the song are very resonant with us, but I think the meaning of this song is like could could being an artist, being a cowboy is so painful. Could I just like embody this unremarkable traditional femininity if I get love in return? Like, is that a life? Is that worth it? Is that like, and like she's the so much of the song is like unhappy, bitter, sarcastic. Like, I'll just do this. Like, I'll put on
Mm-hmm.
paint on my face. The return of investment is love and like or at least a facsimile like approximation of that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not even the real thing, but um again, I think the lesson of the album is like I think the lesson of like the Mitski chronology is about like it's not that you should just only be an artist. It's not just that you should just be like a wife. It's more just like balance. It's about like um
Mm.
it's I think if you just like I think like she claims that like being an artist is like thrives on being unbalanced, and the way she like finds a little more happiness later in her career is more balanced. So it's like
Mm.
she like tried to quit music several times, and I was like, I guess this is the last Mitski album forever, but she always comes back because I think
Yeah.
she wouldn't be happy just giving up music. But
Hmm.
also she wouldn't be happy like being just a traditional wife either. Like maybe she wouldn't be
Yeah.
happy that way either. So yeah.
Yes. No, you can
Um
definitely get that sense in this. Yeah, especially in this song, like Me and My Husband. Like it is very like tongue in cheek, you
hmm,
know? Like she's sort of imagining this potential life. And like, I think she comes to that conclusion in the song. Like it's not necessarily for me, but it would be nice to kind of wistfully imagine it.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
I yeah, I remember like I don't have this conflict anymore, but I remember in my mid 20s there's always the prospect of like my parents like kind of matching me up with someone from like their church and
Hmm.
just like kind of like having a like marriage by faith situation where we would like court each other for 2 years and this would be my person. And I always was like very resistant to that. But the alternative is like just like jungle and like just
It's
like
bleak.
and like like dating is getting harder and harder and like people used to like meet each other like my like therapist she talks about like how she met her partner at work and just like other therapists let's marry each other and have a child like it's like
Oh.
yeah, that's like, but like she can't like I tell her about like my difficulties around surrounding that topic, and she always like prefaces her advice like I don't have that experience. Like, my experience is this. And like I bet like, obviously, everyone has their own difficulties. But um but yeah, like that's how I relate to that song in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go through lowlights and stray observations. Any lowlights of this album, Alicia?
I feel like I actually didn't really connect with Come Into the Water as much. I know that you mentioned that song earlier in the album. And yeah, I just feel like I didn't connect with it as much as everything else in the album. But it is such a rich album with so much. It's a very dense album. So I just felt like this one, she was kind of taking a little break, and that's absolutely fine. But yeah, it didn't really hit as hard for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a lot of like there in this album. It's 30 minutes long, but there are like transition songs in this, which I find very odd. Like "Come Into the Water," "Horse Named Cold Air," and "Blue Light" are transition songs. Where what if the album was just Nobody, Pink in the Night, Washing Machine, Two Slow Dancers? Like that would just like be the album would be much shorter. Like it would be like 25, like 20 minutes. Like the whole album. But I see the point of like maybe adding a little breathing room between the songs, but I also don't know how I would change the order of it. It doesn't. It's a little like elusive of how you would change the order of the songs to like be perfect, the perfect album.
Right.
But there is like a little discordancy with like the track list. I'm like, what's going on? Like it jerks you here and there.
Like
but
it could flow a little bit better, I agree. Like it's just this like little transition that I'm like, oh, I didn't really need this. I'm not like upset about it. It's just that I don't think it was really necessary. And I feel like the first half of the album does kind of flow together. Like, why didn't you stop me? Old friend, Pearl, like that's all really cohesive. But at the end, I think like she's taking maybe a little breather as well. Like you're right. Yeah. And I allow her that space,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's
kind of misses for me.
Yeah, those are really only ones like yeah. Again, I don't know if I would get rid of them. Like, and they're also so short that like it really doesn't matter. Like, it's like okay, I'll listen to this. Like, okay, I guess like I need a little.
Like,
bit.
I'm not upset when Blue Light comes on. It's more like, well, it's such a quick moment, Yeah.
Is that
those are kind of my low lights. But you would kind of agree, like kind of these transition songs.
Yeah. And like also those songs aren't the strongest lyrically either. Like to the way Nobody kind of hits you in the face, and the way like Lonesome Love is so perfect. It doesn't really like do that. Like I'm fine with a transition song if like the lyricism's so powerful. Like Frank Ocean's Good Guy in the middle of Blonde, where he has this little story of like this really unfulfilling date, and it's like it's a 1 minute song, and it's so like it's a breather after one of the big blockbuster songs on the album. So that's my take on lowlights. Any stray observations? Any like any stuff like anything like that?
I mean, I feel like we kind of covered most of it. Again, like the first half of the album was really like strong for me. But again, it's really in the second half with like Nobody, Washing Machine Hard, and like Pink in the Night that were just like punches. Like they were just like hit. And they almost like level out the strong cohesiveness of like the first half of the album,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I would almost consider the first half like just one song. Like I'm on one journey,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like the transition songs make that even more apparent. Like,
yes.
Yeah, like the fact that there's a break in between Washing Machine Heart and Two Slow Dancers is like makes it very apparent that they're their own different. Maybe that's why they're there. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe you do need to like bookend those songs, especially since they are really powerful. Like I think we both said like those are the strongest songs on the album. So I feel like maybe you have to enunciate it in that way.
Yeah, like maybe like water it down a little bit so you don't like die, like
so you don't just lay there for hours. I don't know.
Yeah, truly,
That's
like,
crazy.
I can't come into work. I listen to like
Yeah.
this 11 track Mitski album that just came out. I can't like
it's too much. It's too much. So like I respect her need for that break, but yeah, I just feel like it's overall a very cohesive album.
Mm-hmm.
Like thematically, it's very on point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I don't know. What did you think, Andrew?
What did I think? I think like thank you. Let's see what we got here. I believe that I like in the song Remember My Name, that lyric you mentioned about like I gave so much love, performing, so I need a little extra love to make it through the next performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's such a really interesting perspective on like millennial love in the way like the way like love has multiple meanings. Like I don't think she means it in the purest way, the way she sings on My Love, Mine, All Mine in that one album. Where that's a very pure love, like selfless love. Like I may die, but I hope my legacy is love that you feel forever. Where this is like it's like a means to self-regulate the war inside of her. It's not even and that's not like love. It's just like she uses the word love to communicate that phenomenon.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like in this song, she just like feels very small. Like when she sings that line where it's like, oh, I need something bigger than the sky. Like that's a pretty heavy line, to be honest. And like it does hit very hard. So, yeah, this song was definitely a highlight for me. Yeah. But yeah, a nice quiet devastation again on this Mitski album.
Yeah. Again, very pearl coded in that like the line like in her monologue, her 8-minute excellent monologue about like I want to be like the girls in the pictures because I want to be perfect. I want to be loved by, millions of people because it'll make up for all the suffering that I experienced is the idea of that. Yeah. This is such a
she's a star.
Emma Stone.
So good. And it's very prevalent here. Like that's such a good observation. You're like, this album is very pearl coded, and like you're right.
Yeah. I think she's also like, this is a very vulnerable album for like what we're talking about of there being some distance from, like, even though there's some distance, there's a lot of vulnerability showing. And in that monologue in Pearl and in The Piano Teacher, both with the letter and with like the monologue, both of the characters in reaction go, okay, I'm gonna go. Like they're like or like they lash, or in The Piano Teacher, the man lashes out at her and like he gets angry and like asserts himself in like a really abusive way. So there's a real vulnerability in like not just being vulnerable like interpersonally, but like on a huge stage, on this massive stage. Like it's very vulnerable. Where I'm almost like very concerned for her. I'm like, dude, this is like I don't know if this is the healthiest transference of these really difficult feelings. But thanks for this album also. Like, thank you.
No, also it's true. And I'm like, and also those feelings need to go somewhere. And like, you're right. She basically took all these things and it became a pearl. Like, it's really so much pressure and there's so much going on inside Mitski in this album. And you get this really beautiful thing at the end, but you can see in the pearl, like all these different striations and you can see these patterns and you're like, what had to go into this for this beautiful pearl to be made?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's like, yeah. Like, because when we look at pearls, we like, metaphorically, when we look at pearls, we don't see, or when we see someone we admire, we don't necessarily see all the things that went into like creating that person or that pearl in a way. Like, we don't always see it. We just like we go like, oh, thanks, I'm gonna put it on my necklace now.
Yeah, not every oyster can have a pearl inside of it, and it like shows, but we don't really think about it. And I feel like this album really made me think about that as a concept.
Yeah. One more stray observation. I love that this album, like, it's very hypnotic. It like puts you in a trance. It's like she talks about in Nobody how the origin of that song was just like being in a room on all fours, just like kind of repeating nobody to herself. So like there's like this hyper fixation on like each song is like a hyper fixation on like one thought or one idea or one feeling that's like, and she like the music and the lyricism like puts you in a hypnotic trance. I like an Old Friend where she goes like, she shortens the lyric from baby at Blue Diner to baby Blue Diner. Like baby Blue Diner. She like shortens it because we kind of, we got the point already,
Oh, exactly. Like every song almost feels like its own little echo chamber just for Mitski's thoughts itself. And it's so, I don't know, it's almost
liberals
like a meditation. And that's the album.
Just really quickly, just shouting out Two Slow Dancers, great ending. What do you think of that one?
I mean, it's just such a nice, like almost peaceful ending, even though the lyrics are still very heavy and charged like in the previous songs, but it does really like ease you out of the album because you have been in the tornado of every song before that. You're like, okay, and now there's just two slow dancers in the night. I'm like, yes. And now we have to ease off the album because it's so heavy,
Yeah. I like the lyric, we get a few years and then it wants us back, like and like how like the way she describes like the gravity of our face, like creating wrinkles. Like it's like have you seen the Nathan Fielder finale, like the Nathan For You finale, where the Finding Francis episode?
No, I haven't seen that one yet. No.
Yeah, like it's the finale of it's like a 90-minute episode. Like it breaks the format of the show. And like it's like Nathan Fielder, like a documentary of like Nathan Fielder helping this old man like reconnect with this woman, and he's like a 90-year-old man or like however like an old man, and he's like this sad, like he's a Bill Gates impersonator, and it's like that's his life, and like it's and then he's like so fixated on this one love that he lost, and like it's about reconnecting those two people together, and it kind of there's like kind of an anticlimactic ending, but then like the old man like finds love at the end or finds some sort of peace at the very end of the episode, and it's like your whole life of just like loneliness and just like kind of like mediocrity like ending in this really like yeah, we're gonna die, like, or yeah, like we did spend all that time, yeah, maybe we could have been happier earlier, but like we're slow dancing together. I love the lyric like but as it is, and it is like it's just like, and it is like just like affirming
I agree with that. Like honestly, I wouldn't have chosen any other song in this album to end us off, so like that was a really good choice on Mitski's part.
Yeah,
it literally couldn't have been any other song.
It also like I did sync this song to the very ending of Pearl, where like you could start. The thing is, like, you could start from like when her husband comes back from the war. You could start the song, and the circle like closes in on her face as the song plays, and it's like really like upset. Like,
no, that's so good though.
the implication is like they like grow old together and become like hateful, murderous like people.
Yeah, like they both end up compounding on each other, which again, like every song in this Mitski album is like its own little echo chamber, and she's literally just compounding on her own feelings and thoughts, you know?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really matter at this point what anyone else says. Like these are her feelings, these are her experiences.
Yeah,
but I do love that line where she's like, smells like a school gymnasium. They all kind of smell the same.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah. It's like
she's right.
The observation like puts you in the song. Like it puts you like it makes you like become the old couple. It makes you like,
yes,
like
I agree with that. Like, what is it? Your sense of smell is the only sense that goes directly to your brain instead of your sensory switchboard first. Like, that's really smart of her to instantly put you in a school gym.
Yeah, not only
that's visceral.
Not only the smell, but then like almost like a stand-up comedian. Like they all smell the same. Like they all kind of like have the same.
Like it's really funny, and you're like,
yeah,
Mitski, you are kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go through final thoughts and ratings. The way this works is we'll rate this album out of 10. A fun metric at the end. Alicia, let's hear from you.
Yes.
How would you rate this?
Oh, I mean, if I'm doing this out of slow dancers, I'm gonna give it like, again, I think I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 slow dancers.
Oh.
I had a great time throughout, and I feel like this album works in so many different ways. Like I was casually throughout this week listening to it while I was doing chores, which is good because sometimes I can't think about these lyrics too hard. And I don't know, these songs also kind of work meditatively, and they just make you so contemplative while also having some real bangers on there. But just ending off on 2 slow dancers is so lovely. So I give it 9 out of 10 slow dancers.
Yeah. I'm going to give this 8.5 idiots with a painted face in the corner taking up space.
Sure.
I think this is a great text, a pretty definitive text on millennial angst and loneliness, maybe Gen Z angst and loneliness too. Especially like the timing of the album is so perfect, like pre-pandemic, and the way that things have shooken out, like it kind of is even more resonant than before. Like it was like just at the cusp of like the world breaking and the world becoming more individual and online and parasocial and weird in a way that like speaks to the moment. This is still my like least favorite Mitski album. Like, but if this is my least favorite, then she's like a top tier artist. So, great storytelling, great bops, really sad and beautiful. So I'm gonna give it 9. 8.5. Yeah, I already said that.
No, it's good. Like it's such a good album. This kind of reminded me of when we covered Florence and the Machine, where it's also very like beautiful, but very heartbreaking at the same time. Yeah. You get that almost like a similar like haunted quality throughout. And it's a beautiful album. I love this album. I was a big fan, and I didn't appreciate it at the same time as much as I should have. That's how good of an album it is.
Yeah. Well, we love you, Alicia. And this is so fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on again. I think we make a really good like team on this. This is such a wonderful thing. It was so easy and so fun, and like a lot of interesting deep stuff too. I really feel an amazing kinship with you, and I thank you so much for being a part of the show for the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
I always get so excited when you ask me to come here. I'm like, oh, Andrew's asking me on the pod again. Like, it's such an easy, fun time. And you make me think more about my music. So that's kind of fun. I'm like, I should really start thinking about this music more.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's always such a delight to come on the show.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to plug? Anything out there that you'd like people, where can people follow you, or just something you've made that you would like people to see? What's up there for you?
You know what? I feel like I haven't really been super creative on my end. So I don't really have anything to plug for me particularly. I would, if anyone is in the LA area, I would like to plug the show Dry Mouth Comedy. It's usually run by my good friend, Alice Brenner, fantastic up and coming comedian. And I think you should check out her stuff. I think she's real funny.
Yeah.
Funny lady.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask you to plug something on your own show? I don't know. Is that weird?
Can you ask me to plug something?
I don't know.
All right. Well, yeah, you can follow me at Andrew Ambrose Lee on all platforms. You could follow the show at IBMTLTT on all platforms. You could follow Stenley at Snap a Sten on all platforms, Harper at Harping About on all platforms, Michael at Lemon Taco on all platforms. We're going to be starting up a Patreon. I think we're going to delay it a little bit. Need to get the cover art ready. So like it'll either come out August 15 for September 1st. But we're going to do an episode on where it's a movie podcast called I've Been Meaning to Watch That. So it's very exciting. Yeah, you can follow. Yeah, so check that out on Patreon when that's out. The first episode is going to be on Death Becomes Her, and the second episode is going to be on Anchorman. So that's a lot of fun. And
two great movies. Wow, I'm excited to listen to that episode.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. I believe it's going to be $3.99 for the monthly episodes. And yeah, like Alicia, any final thoughts? Anything you want to say?
Thank you so much for having me. I guess you can follow me on Instagram at Alicia's Bacon.
Yeah.
I post some fun stuff sometimes.
And
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Just sometimes though, you know?
Alicia mustaches was taken. Yeah.
I know. It was so millennial. You can tell that I made this account in like 2012. It's very of its time.
I do I am like, wait, bacon's not cool anymore though. Like,
yeah, I mean, I still like bacon. I didn't really have like a good name at the time. Nothing really rhymed with my name. Like everyone I feel like at that time was making rhyming handles, and I was like, well, nothing rhymes with Alicia, and I do like bacon. So here we are over 10 years later with the same handle, tragically. That's my plug-in. If anyone has a better handle for me, let me know.
Alicia's by Felicia.
Give me a shout out.
That could be something. That's even more.
I know.
That's even more.
I know. I was like, can't be dating myself here again. So yeah, that's my plugs. And I'd once again like to plug this great show. I don't know. And definitely check out the previous episodes.
All right. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye.